So we live in really interesting bicycle times. Not only are tires getting wider, but also handlebars. In no small part to the gravel cycling trend, if that's what you want to call it, and to folks like Ultra Romance and Crest bikes who are really pushing the envelope. And now we're seeing other brands come out with wider handlebars. Brands like P&W Components, Curve Cycling has their ultra wide drop bar, and also our friends at Salsa Cycles have come out with wider versions of the very popular cow chipper handlebar. So the bars are getting wider, but how does it affect reach? I don't think anyone's really kind of looked at this closely, and that's what I endeavor to do today. I've got 3 different widths of the same handlebar, and we're going to try to discern how it affects reach and how you might want to kind of counter effect that reach change with a shorter stem. But before we get into that stuff, let's talk about handlebars in general. Why are traditional road bars as narrow as they are? And what are the advantages of a wide handlebar? In terms of advantages, one clearly would be aerodynamics. You do have a kind of narrower frontal area. So if sports cycling is your thing, then definitely stick with your narrow bars. Another often quoted anecdote of why you would want narrower bars is if you're sports cycling and you're at the field sprint, you can really throw the bike around without tangling up with the competitors next to you. Of course, all that is moot if you're not into sports cycling, but like to ride casually, like to go bike exploring. So what are the advantages then of a really wide handlebar? The first one I would say is, clearly there is more clearance to put a handlebar roll or some kind of bike packing bag without interfering with your shifters and your brake levers. I think there are also advantages in terms of climbing. You just have a wider stance and more leverage to throw the bike beneath you. Another big reason you would want wider handlebars is control, especially in rough terrain. I think mountain biking, the reason why mountain bikes are so wide is that it gives you ultimate control when you're descending. When you hit a rock, you've got enough leverage on the bar so you don't get tossed around. And that brings me to another point. As wide as this bar is, this is the cow chipper in a 52, this would be relatively narrow mountain bike terms. So yes, these bars are wide for road, but if you look at different disciplines of cycling, these are actually pretty average, if not on the narrow side. All right, so how are we gonna test this? I've consulted with a couple of bike fitters that I know, trying to figure out what would be the best kind of useful measurement. So what I'm gonna do is measure from the tip of the saddle to the same fixed point on these handlebars. Luckily for me, that's pretty easy because there are hash marks here. So I'm going to measure from the tip of the saddle to the first hash mark. Again, each of the cow chippers are essentially identical except for the change in width. So it's a pretty good control, I think, and that will give us a baseline to kind of figure out how reach changes as bars get wider. So a couple of disclaimers: I am not a bike fitter, and my goal of this video isn't to make a hard recommendation. It's just to kind of figure out what that delta is. And you can do with it what you may. You might want to change your stem, or you might want to leave it alone. I'm just interested in what is the net change of a change in the handlebar width. I'm going to try to avoid making any judgment calls. It's neither good nor bad. It is what it is. So I think for the first handlebar combination that we're going to try out, I'm going to use a fairly traditional setup with a 90mm stem and a 46 centimeter cow chipper. Again, measuring to that first hash mark. I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to keep the stem length the same, but swap in the bars and make them wider and wider, and we can see what that difference is. And then we'll do a second pass where I'll try to get the same reach, assuming that it changes by shortening the stem. So I'm going to put this guy on and do the first measurement. I feel really sorry for this Crest bike. It has become a Franken bike of sorts for all these experiments. So this is a 90mm stem. I think I'm going to put it in the downward negative fashion here. Okay, so the eagle-eyed among you will notice that I'm not putting all 4 bolts on here. Again, the bike is not leaving the stand, so don't freak out. It's okay. Okay, so I think I've got it where I want it. I'm going to try to keep the general angle the same so that doesn't artificially change the reach. I'm going to measure to this first hash mark here, which should be in the same location on all the handlebars. So that gives us a kind of a control point. To measure, I'm going to be using this handy dandy tape measure here. It's the same one that I saw Annalisa use in our fit video, and I ordered one on online just so I can nerd out on fit at home. And I'm measuring from the tip of the saddle, that first hash mark. When measured in this diagonal fashion, I'm getting about 57 centimeters on the nose. So 57 centimeters for a 90 millimeter stem and a 46 centimeter handlebar. So for the next handlebar, I'm going to put on the 48 centimeter handlebar, and we'll see how that affects reach. Again, trying to get it all lined up as best as I can. What's nice about these cow chippers is there's also a scale here on the center of the handlebar, so you can always get it kind of centered. All right, so I've got the 48 centimeter handlebar here, still the 90 millimeter stem, and we're going to see if there is a change. And if there is, how much of a change? So tip of the saddle to the first hash mark, 58 centimeters. 90 millimeter stem with a 48 centimeter bar. That changed that diagonal reach measurement to 58. So 1 centimeter difference in terms of reach. Definitely made it longer. Not a whole lot, but in terms of bike fit, that's actually fairly significant from, from what I've realized. All right, so we're gonna swap things out. I'm gonna remove the 48 and put on the big boy, which is 52. This thing is significantly wider from where we started. I'm curious to see if that ratio of change holds true, given if you increase the handlebar by 2 centimeters, it increases the reach by 1 centimeter. Don't know, but we shall find out. So I'm sure there are way smarter people out there than I watching this video, engineers, actual fitters, that are gonna find definitely something wrong with my methodology. Again, I make no claims to be a fitter. This is just me as an enthusiast, curious about how it changes, if it's significant, doesn't matter. If you've got better ideas of how to do this, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments below. Oh, the internet. All right, so we've got the 52 on. Let's measure how much the reach changed. It's changed to just under 59 centimeters reach. So there was a change. The reach did increase, not quite to the same amount I was expecting. I thought the larger jump between 48 to 52 would yield a bigger change in reach, but it didn't, only about a centimeter. So what I think I'm gonna do is put the 48 back on and measure that again, just to make sure. Okay, so this is the 48. Once again, measure it, and I'm still getting about 48. So with a 90 millimeter stem, with a 46 centimeter handlebar, the reach was 57. With a 48 centimeter handlebar, the reach was 58. And with the 52 centimeter handlebar, the reach changed to just under 59. So interestingly, the jump from 46 to 48, that 2 centimeter difference in width yielded a 1 centimeter change in reach. And between the 48 and a 52, 4 centimeter change in width only yielded 1 centimeter change of reach. So that's kind of curious. I'm going to measure it one more time. This is the third time I'm going to measure this, just to make sure I'm not doing something wrong or unrepeatable. All right, so I think I'm going to add another tool to try to hopefully make this more precise. I downloaded a leveling app, and I'm going to attempt to level these the same amount. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm measuring the level of tilt so I can repeat it, 7218. So at this level of tilt, measuring to the same point, or 58 to that first hash mark. Okay, so I'm going to swap the 52 back on here, and again set the exact level of tilt, and then remeasure just to make sure that that's not causing the unexpected change in reach. So I've got the 52 back in here, and I'm setting it to the same angle, and this is still just 59. Okay, so I measured for the third time and I used the leveling app, and the findings still remain the same. From 46 to 58, the reach only changed 1 centimeter, and from 48 to 52, it also only changed 1 centimeter. So not quite sure what's going on there. If you know, leave those in the comments below. So knowing that, what I'm going to try to do now is try to normalize the 52 so it has the same reach as a 46. So try to get the reach down to 57 centimeters. I'm going to do that by changing the stem length. I've got 2 other stems I can play with, and we'll see which works best. All right, so I've got the 80 centimeter stem here, moving it down 1 centimeter from the 90 millimeter. And again, this is the 52 centimeter handlebar. Set it once again to the right angle. So let's measure what we've got here. Or about 56.5 reach. So to me, that's pretty surprising. What the net result is, if you're running a 46 centimeter handlebar with a 90 millimeter stem and you want to jump up to a 52, then the stem change is actually a lot less than you would think to get an equivalent reach measured from the point of the saddle to a fixed point on the handlebar. I would have expected to have to drop down to a 70 or even a 60, but apparently going by this measurement, only a 1 centimeter difference in terms of stem length. Again, this isn't a hard and fast recommendation. I'm not gonna say that this feels great or that this is what you should do, but just noting the change and trying to do it in a controlled environment. So what I think I'm gonna do in a future video is measure the reach with my current handlebar fitted setup and try to get an equivalent reach using a wider handlebar and seeing if that actually translates to something that feels good on the bike beyond just the Maz. So what do you guys think of these findings? Is there a way I could have done it better? I'm sure you guys will let me know. Do you guys rock wide handlebars? How much did you guys have to change the stem, or did you leave it the same? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like videos like this, don't forget to support the channel on Patreon, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and as always, keep the supple side down.